Hello, hello. It's Kevin here. Ready for another video. So, first things first, as always, disclaimer, fair use, teaching, education purposes, etc., etc. Okay. So now, as you may or may not know, I hope you do know, what we've been doing in IELTS 9 Pro, the Telegram group, website, and me here on YouTube, wherever you might be watching this. We're doing a rundown of every academic writing task one for the IELTS test from the Cambridge previous papers books, right? So we started with the latest one at 17. So we did 17, 16, 15, 14, 13. And now on number 12. So this is the third task in Cambridge 12. Okay. So now this is all about fast food restaurants. How often people in America ate in fast food restaurants between 2003 and 2013. So I've got my sample here, which I'll explain. And then I've got some student responses that we're going to take a look at in a minute and see just what they did and how they could improve. So, as I said before, you don't need to change a lot for the introduction, right? Pretty straightforward. You know, illustrates instead of shows, fast food restaurants. Just as long as you don't copy word for word, right? That's the only thing. As long as you don't simply copy word for word from the rubric, then you'll be fine, okay? The chart illustrates how often, so you can change frequently to often. In the USA, Americans, fast food restaurants, you can't really call it junk food because it's not necessarily junk, but you know, anyway, so don't be too concerned with your introduction, right? Usually it's just a single sentence and you don't have to paraphrase every word, just maybe change the word order and that'll be fine. As we'll see, some people try and change almost every single word and that just makes it totally incomprehensible. So don't be too concerned about that. But what you must be concerned about is the overview. Now, I made a video yesterday, which you may or may not have seen, which was, again, Cambridge 12 test number 2, right? And that one, a lot of people fail they either failed to write an overview at all, or the overview didn't encapsulate or clearly highlight or identify the key trends or features, which is what the criteria says. I'm not going to show it to you now because I've shown it many times in previous videos. So, in mine, so I'll just explain it first. So if we look at this, right, we can see so there's some high points and there's some low points, yeah? So I will start with the highest and then go into the lowest. And this kind of a chart, there's not a lot else that you can do. Yesterday, it was a map. Well, actually, it was two. It was those two maps of Islip town centre. That was relatively straightforward. You just described the changes and made a comparison. Whereas here, there's not so much to actually do. I mean, we can see that these two here are the biggest. So I put those first, which I do. Paragraph 2. Then you've got these two here are basically unchanged, never and every day. So I put those there. And these also are basically relatively unchanged also. So I would go from the biggest to the lowest, 1, 2, 3. There's not a lot else you can actually do here. So overall, people who wait in those kind of restaurants once a week or twice a month were the highest visitors in percentage terms. Okay. Whereas those who never went to those places or went every day were the lowest percentage-wise. Now you'll notice in the overview you don't put any figures or data. Okay. So then, at the beginning of the period, 2003, and you can vary how you refer to the dates and the categories, etc. It's just for a bit of variation, so you can use, like I say here, those who eat fast food every day, or several times a week a category, or a few times a year a group. Yeah, so you can vary your language a little bit. So at the beginning of the period, individual fats in fast food restaurants once per week, 50%, 50% respectively. Those who ate out once a week, rose, fell, dropped, increased. I'm not going to read it all. You can see it. Okay, pretty straightforward. We just have to have some logic, organization. So start from the highest, moving to the lowest, and that should do it really. Conversely, those who ate fast food every day or never remain below 5 several times a week. Lastly, a few times a year group, blah blah blah. 193 words. All right, I'll leave it there. So that's pretty straightforward, I would think. Okay, so sentence for the introduction, the overview here. Something's big, something's not so big. What's the biggest, what's the smallest? They're essentially the key features. You've got these two, high, middle, and low. So that's it. 1, 2, 3 features. That's all you need to talk about. Now, let's have a look at something else. So, we only got 4 responses in the group, and I usually ask for 5. And I take the first 5 that they send me, and I make comments. Let me make sure I've got my changes on. Okay. The graph gives us the percentage of United States. Now, I'm not going to correct every single mistake here because I haven't got time. And I'm not rewriting everybody's writing for them. Some of the more obvious mistakes I will, but others I'll simply say. Which consumed, right now, that isn't it. Fast food restaurants. They specifically went to restaurants. Yeah. Now it doesn't say ready meals. It doesn't say that. Right. And it specifically says eating out. Not simply eating fast food and ready meals, because you can eat those at home as everybody does. So that's not correct right off of the bat. Investigated. Well, there's no investigation. It's simply an illustration. Sorry. Sorry. It's simply an illustration, a depiction. And also the repetition number of 0, 1, or 2. Well, I don't even know what that means. What's the repetition number of 0, 1, or 2? I don't even know what that means. So, introduction and overview do not work. The minimum figures result daily in all 3 years, and the maximum has been occurred. Okay, the minimum figures are actually used 5% daily in all 3 years. The maximum has been occurred. Has been occurred? Why is it past? For both of once weekly, which is about 1/3 of population. Right, so not easy to follow at all, really, is it? Right. Relatively fixed and similar trend of fast food consumption, which starts on a factor of deficit. Okay, right, this is a little better. Reaching a peak of around 33% for both once weekly. In addition, that's with fast foods a few times annually. Farmers never ate fast food. So that introduction doesn't really work. That paragraph doesn't really work. This is better, but still, the whole thing's a bit of a jumble. There's no organisation here. Let's take a look at this next one. Often Americans ate out. Right, now, again, it's not simply eating out. You might go to not a fast food, but it says fast food restaurants. That means like McDonald's, Burger King, some pizza place or KFC, right? Eating out, that could be anywhere. It could be a a restaurant, it could be a posh restaurant, some fine dining, fancy experience. So that's not correct either. You've got to make sure that you get the main ideas in. And it's not, it's 2013, yeah? So it's not even factually correct. So they've missed out the fast food restaurant part, and they've got the date wrong. So sentence 1, you've got 2 omissions right at the start. Looking from an overall perspective, readily apparent, 50% of the USA, try some more. Right, so you don't put figures and data in the overview. Take a look at all this, look at IELTS Liz, Advantage, IELTS, Simon, etc. They all tell you, don't put figures in the overview. You must clearly identify the key trends, right? What's the biggest? What's the smallest? What's gone up? What's gone down? That's the trend. That's data. That's not a trend. Yeah? That's not a trend or feature. Is data. Main features. Okay? So that doesn't work. Panel consumption, each region is the same. Well, yeah, true. 8 faster restaurants, 8 tons, 8 Now, this is simply a mechanical recitation of data. Eat about 50% ate out a fast food meal a few times a year in the period of time in question. More over 10% experience the same. Did not have any fast food. Okay, and that's 243 words. Why do you need 243 words? Mine's only 193, and that's a little bit much because I had to include all this information. So that in introduction, I say that doesn't really work, and the overview. The rest of it's not too bad, but it could be clearer. Let's see. The frequency is summarized in this bar chart. Okay, that's good. All right. A simple comparison clarified what? Yeah, but what's the biggest? What's the smallest? Right. I'm going to have to get that criteria out. If I can find it. Where is it? Where is it? Right. I'll have to show you this. Right. Where are we? If you can see this. Right. Get my pen out. Right. Key. Right. So this is for the overview. Key features. Clearly presented, well highlighted, appropriately illustrated or extended, right? So, key features. Clear overview, main trends or differences identified. What's the biggest? What's the smallest? What's changed? What's unchanged? What's gone up? What's gone down, right? Main trends, okay? Information, selected, supported, but if you don't have a good overview and it's simply mechanical, you're not making comparisons and there's no clear overview, this is what happens. Well, it says, right, to get a good score here, at least a 7, you've got to clearly identify the main trends or differences. What's the biggest, what's the smallest, what's gone up, what's gone down, etc. Yeah. And if we look at this here, we can see these 2, biggest and smallest. That's what you've got to do, yeah? Pretty straightforward. Okay, so every day, what's this set to go into restaurants? So overview could be clearer. But an overwhelming majority. How is 33% an overwhelming majority? Majority of what? How's 33% is an overwhelming majority? Supplied? What? They supplied their food to the restaurants? You mean they ate out in restaurants, which is not the same thing. Several times a week, fast foods residents or that fast food several times a week, or eat fast food 1 or 2 times a month were 30% of society. Okay, that's not too bad. But is it really? And we went to restaurants with fast food that you could increase. So no, why is it noteworthy? Why exactly should we note this information? I'm not quite sure. And it's not an investigation, is it? It's not police investigation. And 254 words. A little bit long. Okay, this is the final one, I think, yeah. And this one is actually pretty short, 154 words. So, the diagram shows how many people had eaten. It's went to restaurants. So it's not simply eaten fast food. Yeah, had eaten. Okay. 2/3 of American people are weekly or once or twice a month. Well, in general, you mean overall. So what's the biggest? You've got to clearly say what's the biggest, what's the smallest, and this doesn't really say that. 30% has once a week, 20 a month equally, which results in almost 6% of all people. On the other hand, there's not, on the other hand, that's when you have an essay, a discussion, on the one hand, on the other hand. This is not an essay. And there's no on the other hand. Really jumping every day was 4%, fast foods count less than 5%. So we can see here, right, a lot of people here are making the same errors in previous videos. Well, in my video of their writings. They're not clearly, so they're either missing key information out in the introduction, yeah, because it's not simply eating fast food, it's going to a restaurant, okay, but then highest, lowest, they're not identifying trends, or they've put data in the overview. That doesn't really work. Then a logical sequence. So start with the biggest and move on down. So there you go. I'll just leave that there so you can see it. I hope that works out. I hope that helps. So yeah, link to the Telegram group below, IELTS 9 Pro. If you want to join, you can post your writings too. My iTalki teacher profile link is below there too. If you need any individual help, send me a message there. And okay, I'll see you for the next one, probably next week now, because it's nearly the weekend, so I'll be out. But I'm going to post the latest, Cam 12 test number 4. I'll put that in IELTS 9 Pro in the Telegram group. If you want to write your response, you can do so. I probably won't make a video on that one until next week now, so you have a few days to get your writing in. So, hope that helps. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.